Hey, it's Melissa with Sincerely Coordinated Mom. We are going to work on our 14-inch patent pending pancake wreath frame. Y'all, this was a kit. It was a full complete wreath kit that we sold. It did sell out to the folks on our email list. This is the tutorial that goes with it. So the first thing I'm going to say is your kit came with the patent pending pancake wreath bundle, which is the 14-inch, the 10-inch, and the sign extender. It also came with an instructions, basic recipe card, and if you pull out your phone and your camera and scan this, it'll bring you to yet another tutorial for a pancake wreath. So it comes with all of those. We are going to be focused on the 14-inch today, but I want to show you something before I put everything away. So I'm going to set the sign extender away. So your kit came with a full roll of the 10-inch mesh. So it's 10 yards by 10 inches wide. And so you're going to cut your mesh 20 inches long. The first 6 cuts, nice and big, you see how they expand nice and big? The first 6 cuts I'm going to save for my 10-inch frame. There's a recipe for this where I only use the outside 6 twist ties. And these 6 pieces are perfect for this design. So I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. That's my first 6 cuts at 20 inches long. Let's set that aside somewhere over here. There we go. And then our next 6 cuts, so this was part of our first 6 cuts. And then our next 6 cuts, you see how they get a little bit smaller? This gets a little bit smaller. And then this was the last cut. You see how definitely that is not expanding nicely. So this belongs with our 10-inch frame. And then this is going to belong on this. So the first 6 cuts go on the 10-inch frame. The next 6 cuts go on the outside of our 14-inch frame. And the last 6 cuts go on the inside. You're going to find out all the reasons why as we go along. So the first thing I'm going to do is add our pipe cleaners. Oops, it's over here. Add our pipe cleaners. It's going to go around both the inside and the outside of this mesh, or rib. What is this? It's the frame. I forget my words sometimes. So we're going to add our pipe cleaners. I'm just going to make sure I twist that along the outside edge. So when I'm tying on the inside, I'm going to make sure it goes on the inside edge. Not along this side here, but on the actual top, just close to the notch. So wherever the notch is, I'm tying this on top of the wood, but close to the notch. That's just going to help us make our layers a little bit more distinct as we go along, and you'll see in the finishing touches in this what I really mean. But I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but to separate both this and that gives a nice separation that helps the layers look really nice. So it's a small detail, but it actually does have a pretty big impact. There we go. All right, so we're going to take our mesh and start with, again, that second set of 6 pieces. And we're going to add our mesh to the outside of our frame. The one thing I want you to do before we go any further, if this is your kit, I want you to take the back of your sign, and these are your 3M zip tie mounts. I'm actually going to use a staple gun to attach my pipe cleaners, but if you are using these to attach your sign, if you don't have a staple gun, what you want to do right this second, right now, is peel off the back of these peel off the back of this, okay? And it's sticky. It's nice and sticky. I'm going to use a tiny bit of the Dap Rapid Fuse glue, just a tiny bit, teensy tiny little bit. I can't even get my fingers. Yep, teensy tiny. And what you want to do is you want to have these side to side, right? Even, okay? Even. I'm doing this just to show you because I'm going to use something different. So I'm going to put this just a little bit further up, just to use it, show you as an example. And then I have these really tight clamps. You could push down and hold it. I have these really tight clamps that I got from Harbor Freight that I'm just gonna add on there. So we'll show you at the end how good it really sticks and stays. So your kit comes with two. You want to put one on each side. Again, I'm going to use my staple gun and staples with the pipe cleaner, so it might look a little bit different for me. Okay. All right, now getting back to our original plan, we're going to take our mesh. We're going to ruffle right up the center. This is real nice because it has a red line right up the center. So we're going to ruffle right up the center and keep our hands, our fingers as to the middle as possible. Don't just grab the rest of that. Make sure you're putting that out there. This is really, really good mesh, so it's nice and thick, okay? Nice and thick. So we're going to take this and put it right in the outside. Okay, right to the outside. And then crisscross here, nice and tight, securing it in, twist. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap these pieces. This is nice mesh, nice and thick. Really good stuff. Okay. But I will also say, as nice as it is, all mesh frays. So you want to be mindful of that, making sure when you cut your mesh, you're applying a lot of pressure with your rotary cutter. You're using a self-healing mat. You're using a rotary cutter that is, not super dull. Okay. And then, so you're using the rotary cutter just to cut one time. So in other words, don't just like roll back and forth, just one solid cut. Really pretty on this mesh. I can't wait to use the first 6 pieces. I can't wait to use those on that 10-inch. Really pretty. And do the same thing. We're going to work on that outside, those outside 6 twist ties fully before we move on. So one thing I did do ahead of time, and I just forgot to show you. One thing I did do ahead of time, not only did I cut the mesh ahead of time, but I also cut our ribbons ahead of time. And so you want to make sure, if this is your kit, again, the pieces that you have received are to make this exact measurement, this exact kit. So you don't want to cut the wrong pieces. So there's 2 ribbons there that have more than the others. Okay, 2 ribbons that have more than the others. Those are the ones you want to have cut for your ribbon tails, and I'm going to show you in just one second. So they come kind of folded up in 14-inch strips. We want our ribbon tails to be 14 inches. Remember, the mesh is 20 inches. The ribbon tails are going to be 14. So as long as you know which tails or which ribbons are for your tails, it's going to be really easy to cut. So let me just take a time out here for just a second. These are your 2 ribbon tails. Okay, the hearts and the plaid, of course, adorable. These are for your bow, but your ribbon tails come folded like this. Okay, they come folded just like this. It should be 14 inches long. Measure it just to make sure. And then all you're going to do is take your, not this one, this one's for your bow. Don't cut this one. Do not cut this one. I'm just showing you as an example for your ribbon tails. So I already did that ahead of time. So just put your finger in there to spread it apart and just cut. Cut there, and then come along the back. Cut there. And now you have all your ribbons for your tails, and then do that for both of those ribbons. the heart and the buffalo plaid. Those are your tails. The rest are for your bow. Okay? So now you have them 14 inches long, and then I just folded them and cut on the fold up towards the edge to make a nice little V. So a nice little polished look there. And then overlap them, so I put my favorite on the top, fold it to find the center. They're not going to be perfectly lined up. It's okay. Even for me, as crazy as OCD as I am sometimes, it's all right. You're not going to notice the difference. No one's going to know. It's not worth your extra time to do, line them up, cut them perfectly. No, no one's going to know. None of mine are perfect. None. Okay. All right, going back to our mesh, and just remember, you want to just make sure you ruffle all the way up to the edge. Don't just grab the last chunk and be like, oh, it's okay. Okay. Perfect. This is really good mesh. It's nice and thick. All right, then, so from here, then we're going to add our ribbon. And then go to the inside layer, right? I don't want to put these layers of mesh in and, overlap them all perfect and then, mess up the top layer because I'm coming in to put my ribbon tails on the outside layer. So I did that enough times to be like, okay, that wasn't smart. Let's just complete the outside first before we move on to the inside. And what I mean by that is, once I put this piece of mesh in here, like this, and this piece of mesh in here, I'm covering that pipe cleaner up completely. So now I get my chunky little hands in there to tie it, to add the mesh, to cut it off, to fold it, to lift it apart, do all this stuff. And meanwhile, these two pieces of mesh are doing this kind of thing. I don't want to do that. I just want to work on my outside focus, be done, move to the inside. All right, so we're going to do just that, working on our mesh, or I'm sorry, our ribbons. So again, taking our 2.5 inch ribbons, scrunch up the center, fold it out like this, out towards the edge, so it's all facing towards you. Put them in there nice and tight, securely, nice and tight. I'm twisting these about 7 or 8 times, just enough so that when I go in there to spread these ribbons apart, both up and down and side to side, I know that the pipe cleaner is going to come apart and my ribbons aren't going to come out of there, right? I know that because it's nice and tight. I have enough length here for it to not go anywhere. Perfect, just like that. Now, I'm just setting them in there. If you make wreaths, you got to find some ways to cut some time. So if I'm making, like today, I think I made 4 already. I think this is my 5th one today. You got to find ways to streamline things and make it a little easier. And any little seconds that you can cut, not on your design, just to make it easier and go quicker, the better. So, like for example, instead of picking up my wire cutter every single solitary time I put in a pipe cleaner, I'm just going to pick it up twice. I'm going to pick it up in just a second here to do the outside layer, to trim those pipe cleaners, and then again when I do the inside. Instead of picking it up every single time, there's no point in doing that. It's just a waste of time. It's just a waste of time. You can go quicker and be more efficient if you're just finding little ways like that to cut. So now I pick it up. Boom. Okay. Now from here, I'm going to take this outside ribbon. I'm going to kind of push down almost. Not in, just down. And then spread this apart, up and down, side to side, up and down. So I decide now I'm not going to move my ribbons after that. I'm not going to touch them. I'm just going to leave them until the very end, and then I can address it. Because they're going to move and shift all over the place. And if I, just like I was talking about as far as time, if I shift and move my ribbons back into place and along the whole design, it is going to take up a lot more time than absolutely needs to. So if I just do it once, all at the end, aside from this part, because again, if I waited until the mesh was on the inside and then I'm, moving this, pushing it up like this, right? That's moving all that mesh that would be there. So I'm pushing that up. Now I don't have to worry about it. It's just I'm doing what I need to, and then I'll do the same thing to that inner layer when I'm ready. I'll also notice I'm doing a pattern here. I'm just keeping that pattern. I talk about patterns all the time with my 6-year-old and my 9-year-old, even the 9-year-old, helping the 6-year-old. So I want to see this going around here all the way. So I have plaid, heart, plaid, heart, plaid, heart, plaid, heart. It's just easier on the eye to see that design, that flow, real easy. One of the things y'all text me and say, mine doesn't look like yours. And one of the things y'all are doing are putting your ribbon tails like this, and then therefore the plaids are touching. And so it looks very choppy. It looks very, very choppy. And so just by spreading them out and making sure that you have that pattern going, all the difference in the world. Again, I'm not going to play with them until the very end. Just the ribbons and kind of move them, because right now as I put this layer on and then the top layer, it's gonna move. That ribbon's gonna move. And so if I can just get through this, get the sign on and the bow on, and then we'll be in good shape. Then I'll go through and move everything so that it stays perfect and doesn't move. I don't want to lose those pipe cleaners, so I want to make sure that they are not sneaking under there. Now this ended up being the last piece that came off that roll. Super tightly wound. Again, still not going, letting it just grab that last chunk, just ruffling it all the way to the end. Perfect. Now this piece, you're going to see the part that was the most tightly wound. As soon as I unravel that and kind of pull that over there, it's going to start catching on this piece of mesh, which is nice. Usually when it catches, it's snagging my sweater, it's, snagging stuff I don't want it to. In this case, right, the fact that it has that under layer of mesh to snag onto, kind of help hold it in place when it's spread out like that, is so great. I love that. That's why specifically I put those pieces that are closest to the inside of that roll here on the inside of the frame, so that it has that extra support, that extra layer of material to grab onto and keep itself in place. I believe this mesh, some mesh is 10 inches wide and some is 10 and a half. I have a feeling this one's 10 and a half. I didn't look, but I think it is 10 and a half. It's just really pretty. Super. Not only is it pretty to look at, it's super thick. So if you're just doing this for the very first time, I gave you a strict recipe to cut that whole roll of mesh so that you have enough mesh for both the 10-inch and the 14-inch. If you're doing this for the very first time, it might be very worth your while to cut a piece, cut your first 12 pieces for this frame, okay? And then cut another piece and practice with it. It's nothing, The only thing that could happen is that you play with it enough and then it's completely, you know, once you play with it a little bit, it really frays. Like if I was to roll this up and then let go of it, you could see it would typically, it would definitely be fraying. And then, you know, look the same when you do it all over again. So, you know, the worst case scenario is you wouldn't be able to use those last, you know, all your pieces for the 14-inch, for the 10-inch frame. You know, if you use those pieces that were designated for the 10-inch frame, don't use the first 6. Put those on your, nicely on your frame here. I hope that made sense. Anyway, you get to practice. So if you've never done it before, you've never played with mesh before, it's a good idea to just, you know, take a piece and practice. This goes really quick once you have everything pre-cut and measured and ready to go. So my suggestion is, if this was a kit to you, you know, cut your mesh, get that prepared, cut your ribbon tails, get that prepared, load your pipe cleaners, all of them, onto your board, get that prepared, start, or, you know, glue the zip tie mounts on the back of your sign, get that prepared, and then, you know, your designing, as we are right now, goes so much quicker and smoother. If you had to stop because I need to cut more, I need to cut this, I need to cut the ribbons, it just gets very choppy and it ends up feeling so much longer than it really is. All right, we're gonna go back in, here we go, with our next layer of ribbon, our last layer of ribbon before we make our bow. And then here is where the layers start to really show. Super cute. Again, just kind of forming that so it comes out towards me. 6 or 7 twists. 7 or 8. 6 to 8, whichever, doesn't matter. Just make sure it's enough where when you pull those ribbons apart, it's the pipe cleaner isn't going to come apart. So again, this design is meant to be very slim. So it's not going to be a, you know, 12-inch deep wreath. It's designed purpose. It's ruffle. The ruffle that we just did is designed purposefully to be nice and thin. Now, not that it's the only place you can put it, but it's meant to put between your main door and your storm door. So if you don't have a storm door or a screen door, it can hang right on your door. It's totally fine. But for those who, I'm in Michigan, so for those who have storm doors, there you go. So then again, I'm going to pick up my wire cutter here in just a minute and cut off the rest of those. And then we're going to do something a little bit different with our, you know, it's the little details. It's the little tiny details that help make these designs look so perfect. It's the little tiny details. So for example, the pipe cleaner that I'm not going to try to hide, I'm just going to push it in. I'm going to push it in. It's going to bring that ribbon just in a little bit. Now watch. See how much more it shows now here? And I'm not going to see less of this. Now again, I'm not going to play with, I'm just going to make sure I'm pulling those apart. I'm not going to play with them. I'm not going to work with the outside layer yet and put those in place. I'm going to wait till the very, very end. As long as I have them spread apart, we are in good shape. because then what happens too is the ribbon will catch on the mesh, and then that'll also help keep it in place. I don't know if I've ever actually worked with this mesh. I love it. It's really nice. I'm not saying that just because it was a kit. I'm saying it's really nice. In fact, I have more of it that's meant for kits. I'm going to make sure I keep some myself. All right. So again, still not going to touch. Still not going to touch. All right, but by right now, your sign should be ready. Should be dry. Ready. I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to use so the sign itself is about 1/4 of an inch, whereas my staples are 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so I need to beef up my sign so that my staples don't go through the sign. So I'm just using the edge of the cardboard of this ribbon spool. I know, I'm always doing things the hard way. It's fine. So if you were using your zip tie mounts, you would just slide your pipe cleaner in there, crisscross, twist, twist, and then look, it's not going anywhere. I can pull that baby. It is not pulled so hard that I leave a mark in my finger. It's not going anywhere. All right. I just prefer myself to have the staples. All right. So speaking of staples, my staple gun doesn't like me. We have had some difficulties with it lately. So all I'm going to do is make sure I'm pressing nice and hard, putting all my might, and I'm going to put 2 for good luck. Whoa! Glad I have glasses on. Be patient, Melissa. Be patient, Melissa. Let's go to the other side for a second. Okay, I need to stand up and give it a little. One more. Didn't go in. See what I did there? I opened it upside down because the other one went flying. So I've had this for lots of years, and recently I just started putting different size staples in it. So it recently started to not like me. All right, that's good. All right, setting our wreath down, or our sign down right here. We're gonna make our bow and be all done. So we're gonna start with our ribbons. Bottom layer being the black. I really do like, it doesn't always happen. It does not always happen. But I really do like to have ribbons that are separate from the ribbons that are in the tails. Okay, just to let your bow kind of really pop out. So we're going to do always a 7-inch tail. Now this is the same for the pancake wreaths, almost, let's say, just say 90% of the time. 7-inch tail, 6-inch on the loop. Look at that, perfect, 6 inches. I'm gonna pinch. Pull it apart, twist, loop, pinch, twist, loop. This bow has 2 loops on one side. Pinch and twist. it has 2 tails on the other side with 1 loop. So 3 loops total with 2 tails. Okay, I'm going to slide that right in there. Now, again, this is a kit, so you've got a certain amount of ribbon to play with, right? So if you're following this recipe, you'll have enough to make this exact bow. Now, usually, I just do 1 2.5 and 2 1.5. But I couldn't stand it. I loved this ribbon. I really wanted to use it in this design, so I just added it. So we have the heart ribbon. Again, I'm going to make sure I go a little bit smaller. As long as you have that first layer good, 7 inches on the tail, 6 inches on the loop, everything just gets a little bit smaller, like a little finger smaller, all right? And then you'll be good. Just going to pinch, twist. Here's another layer of ribbon that is a little thinner, but it's so darn cute. Twist. You always got to twist to make sure that that pretty side is facing the top. Twist. Now, one thing is that the 2 loops here, they have to go opposites. So now I'm going to put the 2 loops on this side. Okay, and then we're going to shorten that tail. Coming in with the, I'm going to go with the red I Love You next. And put that black and white right on the top. Super cute. Okay. So then a little bit smaller, everything gets a little bit smaller. Now the ribbon was folded, so if you're finding kinks in it, it's wired, so you just smooth it out. It'll be just perfect. Like here, I can see a kink there. I just pull it out, done. Twist, loop, pinch, twist, loop, pinch. And then you start to notice all the ribbons on the bow were the same size. You start to notice those tails get a little bit longer of your extra because you're getting a little bit smaller as you go. Okay, and then that last ribbon we're going to go with the plaid on the top with those cute little hearts, glitter hearts, darling. Okay, and then this one is a little bit different. I have a 3-inch loop in the center. 3-inch or a little bit smaller, a little bit, just about 3 inches. Let's say that, about 3 inches. Pinch, twist. First loop, because my middle loop doesn't count. Pinch, twist, loop, pinch, twist, loop, pinch, and twist. Remember, we had that extra 3 inches here, so my tail ended up being shorter, so we didn't have any left over like we did the other one. So 2 loops here, 2 loops go on the other side. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to take my last pipe cleaner here. My last pipe cleaner. Just make sure that is all in a row. Then I'm going to just slide it up. Now, I don't obviously use the Easy Bow Maker the way I'm supposed to. I love making the loops, the layers in my hands. I have super bad carpal tunnel. I just can't keep them all in my hands to make the whole entire bow. I'm not less of a bow maker. Doesn't make me not a bow. I can't not make bows. I can. I just can't hold them all in my hand. So nice and stacked. The next thing I'm just going to make sure is that last ribbon is twisted to the front, and then I'm going to hold it in the back like this, and then I'm going to bring that first loop right up to the center here. Okay, and the bottom layer. Now these tails are the longest part of my bow, so I'm going to make sure that comes down this way. Comes down this way. And then I'm just going to make sure that all my layers can be seen. I'm going to make sure all my layers can be seen. So I'm going to go black, and then hearts. You're the boss of your ribbon. You make it do what you want. So I have black, hearts, black, hearts, black. I'm going to go to the next layer and spread those apart. So now I see red, white, red, white, red. I'm into my next layer. I'm going to bring those black and whites so I'm on the top. Actually, I'm going to put that one down here. There we go. So I'm starting to blend into that top layer, making sure that button in the top is covering our pipe cleaner. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom, right? So I'm going to pull those apart, pull these apart so that they are now spreading that whole first layer. So going back from black, white, red, the whole thing. Okay, there we go. So I can see all those layers, all those pretty layers. Now listen, I always do things the hardest way. I'm sure there are lots of easier ways to do it, but even though I crushed my ribbon and specifically were a little dramatic on the way I spread them apart so it could show you and you could see, usually I just put it in the wreath, and then if I'm doing it all by myself, I just put it in the wreath and then spread it there. But now look how cute, right? So pretty. We'll set that aside and then attach our sign. Now, because this is so thick, I'm already not looking forward to it, but this is always the hardest part. I'm going to take that pipe cleaner and weave it through all that mesh, because I have to attach those pipe cleaners. I attach the sign to the frame. That means I have to get those pipe cleaners through all that mesh. It's funny, I'm actually closing my eyes. Calms me just a little bit. There's just so many layers. There we go. So the pipe cleaner isn't like a wire. It is wire. It's 2 wires, in fact. 2 wires woven, the pipe cleaner is. And so because it's like spiraled, it always catches on one of those little tiny pieces of mesh, and it drives me crazy. I'm going to flip this over to you in just a second so you can see the back, but what I'm doing, or what I did. Get that side secured first. Okay, going in. Now the goal here with the sign and the bow is to cover up all of those pipe cleaners. That's my job. That's my last job, is to make sure all my pipe cleaners are covered up and I can't see them. Because they are not part of this design. I do not want to see them. Okay, I'm going to show you what I did. So I pulled in my pipe cleaner, one here. I pulled the other one in pretty much right next to it and then slid it underneath here. So I pulled it on the other side. What I could have done is just grab down to this little hole here to secure it, but I didn't. Just wrapped it around the whole frame, which is typically what I do. The only time I use those is when you know, maybe my bow is bigger and I have less of a pipe cleaner to use. It's not that long, and maybe it won't go around the whole thing, so I just grab onto that, just no problem. There, now my sign is in. It's not going anywhere. It's literally not even shaking. It's perfect. Just making sure I'm good here. Good, good. And then the last thing, remember I'm taking that, not the last thing, but I'm taking those long layers, that longest part. I'm going to put those facing down, coming down. Okay, I'm going to want that coming down. I don't want it going up towards my words. I want it coming down. So let me just see where we're at here. Okay. Doing that same thing. There we go. Now this, let's see if I can do what I set out to do. I've done this a couple times. It kind of works out really nice. It did. Look at that. All right, so there isn't a hole there right in the center, and I don't want to go around the whole entire frame in this case. And so what I did was I used, I'm going to show you, before I do it, let's just see, I used the hole was where the pipe cleaner went to add, because I didn't want to go over here, it would be offset, right? It would have been offset. There wasn't a hole right here. So if I just pulled it right there and went right through that hole, now I'm going to attach it the same way I did the sign. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Right? Totally good. That way I didn't have to go around the whole frame, which sometimes drives me totally crazy, but that's neither here nor there. There we go. Just tuck it underneath. Now, two things. I'm going to fluff my bow, make sure those are all in place, which is easy to do once it's in. It's kind of harder to do once it's not in, when it's not attached to anything. It's kind of harder to do that way. So now I have the weight and the balance of the whole wreath to help keep it in place. There we go. Just want to be able to see all those layers. You see all of the layers of the bow. Perfect. Okay. And then the last thing I do, now after all that restraint, I go back and touch almost every single ribbon and make sure it is in place where it needs to be. The little tails, the little pointies are sticking right where they need to go. No one's hiding. I can see all of those ribbons. I don't want anybody to be hiding. I don't want anybody to be hiding. Y'all, I hope that you have been enjoying this video, all of our videos. You're inspired, you're learning, you're trying new things. If you have talents other than wreath making, I encourage you to either, start an Etsy sale or start an Etsy shop, or do craft shows. Like, I used to always think, oh, you can't sell money making crafts, so I would never even try. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong. Look at how cute this is. I love it so much. Still, let me zoom you out here. Still nice and thin, right? To fit between most, not all, but most main door, storm door combinations. Nice and clean and, good looking back here. Not a crazy mess. Really, really pretty. I hope that you enjoyed it. For those of you who got this as a kit, I love it so much. I hope that you're enjoying. I hope that you enjoyed putting it up. I hope that you love walking home to your door. Hope that if you bought it to sell, I hope it sells. I've already sold I've sold 3 actually with the different ribbons and stuff at the boutique where I sell. Did I sell any online yet? 1. 3 at the boutique with this exact sign, and 1 online. It's maybe 2 online. I don't know. They've been all selling. It's adorable. It's super cute. It was popular last year, popular again this year. Super cute. I hope that you enjoyed. Don't forget to make sure that you are following us and subscribe to us. If you're looking for emails, if you want kits like this, don't forget to be on our email list. You can find all of the links in this description. The email list to join us is don'tmissemails.com. Don'tmissemails.com. That will put you into our email system, and you'll get emails when we have new kits, when we have new classes, when we have, want to say I appreciate you and all those things. I don't email, I'm not a 5 times a day emailer. That is not me. But we'd love to have you. So I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that I'll see you again. And until next time, have a great day.